Welcome to the Class Apart. I'm your host, Arjun. Thank you for joining me as I embark upon a journey across the world of higher education. Each episode, we'll discover exciting alumni experiences, gain industry insights with various stakeholders, and explore the ever-changing landscapes of global learning. Welcome back to the Class Apart. For those of you that have listened to the previous episodes, thank you. And for those of you tuning in, welcome. Please do hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I would really appreciate that. Today's guest is really special. I did study with him for 6 years in all-boys boarding school. And I thought I'd start this podcast off with a small story. And I mean, obviously, the person I'm interviewing today can corroborate the story, tell me if that is true or not. But in class 11 and 12, we had to do an extended essay for the International Baccalaureate Diploma. I am not going to go into my details, but after finishing school, I heard that this person, for his extended essay, had decided to do his project on sound. And for that, he was measuring the optimal place to sit inside a movie theater. And while I know that doesn't sound too fancy, as you as the listeners may have to understand that we were in a boarding school, so we could only leave school 6 times within a 4-month period. So to kind of develop an essay where you could actually go and do a leisure activity outside of school and get the work done at the same time, I thought was pretty genius at the time. I definitely didn't think of something like that because I'd take any opportunity to get out of school. There's guys that managed to find a way to find a loophole within the system itself. So I thought that was pretty cool. But without further ado, hi Sriyash, how's it going?
Hi Arjun, how are you doing? It's a great Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's great timing on a Saturday afternoon.
I'm in Bhubaneswar and there's lockdown here every weekend. So Saturdays are the most relaxed days of the weekend. Sunday you start thinking about Monday and how much you can cram in a week. But Saturdays are great. I love that you picked this day. About the essay. So yes, it was a loophole. I did love watching movies back then. Like it was something I had a deep passion for. And luckily I was fortunate enough to, my uncle's a builder and he built malls in Calcutta. So while he got me blueprints of 6 different movie theaters. And it helped me get out in school too. But what it really allowed me to do is take something I really love doing as a thing, something I really love doing as time consuming, like a hobby, and figure out in it the extensive detail which would make that experience better. And we actually started the project with viewing and then it went into sound because I figured since I wanted to study music at some level post school, this helped me with my applications. It got me into the conservatory that I actually ended up going to. And this essay was quite the benchmark for me to go on with my career. So they needed an audition for me. So I played for 40 minutes and sent them a recording. And they needed to know that I could do physics and sound. And it just worked out that way. You know, life has a weird way of figuring itself out. So that loophole kind of defined the next 5 years of my life, if you want to put it that way. And that's what it is, really. It's you go out and try to learn and things happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how things have a way of kind of working out. Just for the listeners, where did you decide to study after you finished school?
Right. So I applied to a lot of schools, right? And for every school I applied to, I also applied to the music school because why not? So I had a 12-school application with 12 music schools, and each musical applications were different. They had different requirements. And surprisingly, I got into more music schools than I did schools, which was definitely a sign. And so eventually I took up the offer from the National University of Singapore, NUS, and I went to the Yong Conservatory of Music, which is the conservatory that they have. It's a little less known because they only take about 45, 50 students a year. And typically Indians do not end up there because this is not something we do on a general basis. You know, even if we do music, we do Hindustani music or pop, rock. Western classical music as a career is a very rare choice. And it was a privilege. I mean, I sincerely believe that the essay made the difference, 1. And 2, they were looking for diversity. So they wanted an Indian person. I was the only Indian person there for a long time. And then this other girl who's an opera singer, she just graduated, Shubhangi Das. So now they have 2 Indians. And it's a new conservatory, but it's very, very well kept. And they offer every student a full scholarship. plus stipend, plus. So it was an offer I couldn't let go of. So I told my family, look, buddy, I'm going to do this. I'll have a second technical degree. So I'm going to study music and sound and acoustics. So my career, as far as I'm concerned, is sort of covered.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not paying a buck, so I'll manage. And that really allowed me, from my context of Marwari, Calcutta, to be able to go study at a conservatory
Yeah.
and really explore horizons like I couldn't have imagined.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Close to.
so it sounds like this was kind of an opportunity that you just couldn't miss and you couldn't let it
Yeah.
go. And two things I did notice is that you did have to justify the decision that you were making. I mean, not justify, but kind of you did have to create an argument as to why this was a good option. And the
Yeah.
second thing is that, I mean, you managed to do something which, to be very honest, people don't see a lot. If I'm very honest with you, I mean, you know what I do for a living, and I meet students on pretty much a daily basis, and music is just not something that is requested. I think in my entire career, I've met 4 students that have asked for music as a university choice. So, I mean, like, yeah, kudos to you.
Well, it was a bit of mix of everything. So the financial crisis that happened, money was short. And since I was on scholarship in school, I just wanted to keep that debt-free mindset, right? So, I mean, I'd even paid for my room in America. So me, Aditya Sukhya, and Aditya Gupta were supposed to share a room at Berkeley. We had paid for a room. We got a triple room. I'd almost paid my fees. And then this offer came up. And essentially, so financing was a big part. Second, it was the desire to explore this passion a little further. And it was also the privilege of knowing that if it doesn't work out, I will make it otherwise. In terms of there's a family business background I can always come back to. So those 3 things helped. But I did have to justify it, not only to myself, but to my family. And this is something I do see a lot in India, which is rather atypical across the world. Usually students study what they want to study and what they're interested in, and it really depends on who you are as a person and what you envision your life to be, in terms of where you want to live, how you want to live, how much money you want to make, what kind of society you want to be a part of, what kind of change you want. But in our case, there is so much pressure to make it in life, because our parents and our grandparents have had that struggle. Not everybody comes from a certain wealth background. So there is always that push to say, look, what's going to be my return on this? How much will it cost me, and what do I see my life as? Will I be able?
I think with the UK government providing student loans to every UK citizen, the students also don't have that answer to the family, because they're like, well, you don't really hold any responsibility towards it, so I don't need to justify myself to you.
Yeah, and there's also a certain amount of freedom you're given after you're an adult, where you say you can go live where you want, you can do what you want, and it's a cultural thing. Parents are a little overbearing in the country. There's certain expectations not only from the family, but how you are perceived as a member of the family outside the family. That's a big what we call samaj in the Marwari clan, or log. These are 2 words I hate a lot, because there's this mysterious force which guides your life and your actions through your life. Make your bed, because people from outside might come and see it. I'm like, yes, but it's my room and my bed. And these are struggles as someone who has been privileged enough to have a liberal education, and Doon had a big part to play in it. In the sense, we were secularly taught. We didn't go to a Hindu school or a Christian convent school, which I did in Calcutta. So it was a liberal education. You read, you saw things, you saw different kinds of families, and you said, life can be like this. Why are we holding ourselves back? So these things exist in our country, and we're moving forward. Definitely, I see a seismic shift already with the careers people are pursuing, and also technology has made it such that you could be on Instagram and earn a decent revenue for yourself if you want it enough.
What I also do see a lot, though, is parents not having the faith that their kid will be able to live with their decision. Like, let's say if you went for your program in music and sound acoustics and everything, and it didn't work out, if you kind of had to come home, then the parents would have been like, see, if we let you make that decision, then this is what the result is. And I see that a lot, that parents always feel that they know what's in the best interests for their kids, and they don't allow the kids the room to make their own mistakes and then learn to live with those mistakes, which I feel is just an invaluable skill that you can have in today's kind of economy and today's world.
And it's even worse because the child is pressured to their expectations at all times, right? And so much so is the fear that a child cheats on exams to say, look, it's not that I want more marks. It's not that I want to go to this college. It's my parents will be upset.
Yeah.
It a certain sense of immorality, even to a point of I am hurting myself for their expectations.
Yeah.
And that's a pressure. That's a pressure that does exist in our society. But on the other hand, my question is: do parents really know best? That's a question I've asked myself so many times, especially for kids who want to go to boarding school. I mean, you see them 3 months a year. That too in a very angsty phase of their life where you don't know what's going on in their head. So do you really know best? And if you don't, then shouldn't you? I think the beginning of all problems, solution to all problems, the beginning of the solution is conversation, an open, free conversation where you say, look, this is what I want to do, and I understand your concerns. Let's find a middle ground. Let's figure out plan A, plan B, plan C. And sometimes life is tough. Sometimes none of them work out. But it's good to be prepared. Understand the consequences of your decisions and have that conversation. That conversation doesn't happen. I see so many kids who've gone to America, finished their degrees, come back to India, and now are doing the IAS exam. For what? For what? Why did you spend those $200,000 then? Now, if the answer to that question is, I want to make a difference in civil service in this country, justified answer. If the answer to the question is, I will get a bulb on my car and I'll be an important person, you didn't have to go to America.
You didn't have to go to America to do that at all. Coming back to kind of your university experiences, did your university meet your expectations?
Not completely.
Okay.
Not completely. Few reasons. I was driven by the financial motive a lot. And I went into it a little blind. Right? I think technology and information is a lot more freely available today than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, a lot more available in our times than it was 10 years before that. So today, if you want to find out about a university, if you want to talk to people who've been there are hundreds of sources you can go to. Right? You can actually the campus without. Let me bring it back to Zoom and say, I came to Zoom not knowing what the school looked like. I'd never stepped inside school. It was this mythical place where I'd gotten into and I was going to spend the rest of my school life there. But the day I entered school was the first time I entered Chandba. Similarly, Singapore and NUS was a little bit of a blindside decision in terms of I hadn't thought through what a conservatory life would be, right? Like similarly, sometimes people don't think what an engineering life will be, or what a mathematician's life will be, or what a physicist or a social sciences person, right? That thought needs to be discovered before you actually pick the school. Also, you need to figure out location, context, the kind of life you want, and the kind of people you want to be around. So I was in a conservatory where we were 50 times 200 people, plus about 80 teachers. So it was a very small community, very small, at least by face, if not by name. But because the conservatory was searching for talent, they bypassed the English requirements. So we were in an English university where half my class I couldn't communicate with in English. So the Chinese community was with themselves, the Thai with themselves, the Filipinos with themselves. And I was the only Indian who had no community, which is very important. A Mexican guy, Diego, was very bold. There was an American who did fantastically well. He made the Forbes 30 under 30. He started music schools while he was there. And today, I think he owns 20 music schools in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
And his girlfriend, Bina, who was from New Zealand. So these two became a couple very quickly, and they were there for each other. And Diego and I were very close friends. So that sense of community is very, very important. It doesn't have to be your nationality, but it has to be a sense of people who you can talk to about life.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to community, it's just a bunch of like-minded people.
So that's what I think the conservatory failed me as such. The education was fantastic and at par. Everything that they did was of excellence. As a conservatory student, you're expected to practice 8 to 10 hours a day. So, and it's an expectation. It's not a given. You don't have to. But then you go to class and don't perform well. The teacher knows, and then you have chairs thrown at you and stuff like that. You remember how a musician
kind of reminds me of Whiplash a little bit.
Yeah, Whiplash or even GSS, if you remember, Mr. So there is a certain madness to music. So not all teachers are like that, but some teachers are.
Yeah.
And so I would wake up at 6:30, go to school by 7, and not come back by 12 at night with the
Wow.
double degree. And I did that 7 days a week, 300 days a year.
Yeah.
And to think that I'm not using any of those skills firsthand in my career is nothing. But it taught me so much. It taught me dedication, taught me time management, taught me. So a musician learns that a deadline's a deadline because it's a concert.
You definitely hit a point when the pressure management is something that university definitely does teach you.
Another thing, university for me, I mean, the most critical thing about going to university, question now has become with COVID and everything, is university worth the money? Essentially, what university has taught me and teaches anybody who tries a little bit is to critically think. It's not something we do in the Indian system. It's not something we did particularly well with the IB because we were the early batches. But it teaches you to structure thoughts and push the boundaries of your thinking, right? How to write an essay is a very critical learning step, right? For me, it's not so much what you study, but then it's coming from my position because I've pivoted a few times in my life. I went from music to a master's in finance and accounting. So I pivoted a few times, but it really teaches you how to adapt and become the person you want to be through all that pressure, through all the difficulties, through the loneliness, how to find your own support system. And that is essential in life because these things you're sheltered in school. In school, you're sheltered by your parents. If you're in day school, you're sheltered by your teachers. You have particularly in the Indian system, you have your papers, you have your exams, and that number in the end is going to define your school life.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like the papers are intellectually stimulating. If you've done the last 10 years of papers, the exact format, the exact kind of question. You just need to tweak the formulas a little bit and kind of shuffle around the numbers, and you've got 100%.
So the new education reform that I was reading through is fantastic. I mean, I hope they execute well because these things are great in idea, and then while in in execution, you realize we made a big mistake. But I hope it works out. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely following it very closely, and it has potential. I mean, there is still places where I feel that it wants more. But I think for a beginning step, and I think it is a move in the right direction, at least.
A teacher at school, I will not name, said something very interesting to me during one of our conversations about the education system when I was choosing between the IB and the ISC. One, the Indian education system hadn't been reformed for a long time. And two, it was based on a clerical system that the British had put in for Indians back in the day when they were still ruling. So we Indians make good clerks. We make good workmen. We don't make great critical thinkers. Very few critical thinkers come out of that system because it doesn't enrich it. It usually happens through experiences outside or through college, right? I think this is the first step to start critical thinking. And I think it's so important. Mathematics is not formula. This is the formula. They are solve it. Solve 100 questions, you're good. It's understanding the processes behind it. Right? History is not memorizing dates. It's understanding the context in which things happened.
Yeah.
Right? There's just a different approach to thinking.
Yeah.
Right? And education is not a paper where if you don't get 96.7%, you will not make it to SRC or Stephens. It's an A or a B. It's a gradient of and the world has gotten it. We just need to get there. Right?
I definitely agree with that. I mean, and I see it as well. Critical thinking is definitely, I mean, it's a value add. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. Critical thinking is a value add if in any stream, in any walk of life. So I definitely agree with you there. So, I mean, coming back to kind of like your undergraduate experience at NUS, I mean, obviously there was the community issue where, you couldn't find like a community, or it was relatively tougher to find one when you were there. What are some of the other places you struggled? I mean, I'm assuming that because, we were in boarding school and then all of a sudden you're in kind of a new country, new university, new society, like there must have been something that came up.
Look, moving to a new place has infinite difficulties. And some of the others, which took me some time to get used to, was the food. The food takes time to get used to. And so I was a vegetarian kid till a long time and then I started eating meat. And Singapore is great for food till you figure out what the different things are, because they're called weird things.
Yeah.
Like a char siu duck is something I'd never even heard of. It's the most delicious duck you can find, and you get it at every hawker for absolutely throwaway prices, right? 50 rupees, $1, $2. You can get char siu duck. Language was a big issue. Singapore has 4 languages, right? I moved into a residence because I had a free room where we were 15 people on a floor who shared a toilet. And while I'm used to having 100 people share, this was a completely different experience, because you'd wake up in the morning and say, wait a minute, why didn't you? Why?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't flush, toilet paper's finished. I mean, come on, are we not human beings? Then also managing your life outside the conservatory, because it was so much pressure on a whole. Managing what you want to do socially was a big issue. Singapore being a very closed society in terms of a place where there was a lot of restrictions, there was not communication, there was no dialogue on social issues. I struggled with that. I mean, there was a pride movement and everybody went to jail for it. And for me, that was a big problem. The fact that there were cameras everywhere and you were monitored, and there were strict smoking zones where you could smoke, or, the general expense of things.
Yeah.
These are all issues you face when you go to a new place. See, going from a very protected Indian family to the UK, and your batchmates are having a good time every other night. It's not something you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to get lost in that, considering you've never been there.
Yeah.
But also important to experience those things so you realize what you want with your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
So it's a double-edged sword. Those difficulties show you who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it also shows you kind of what you're capable of and what you're lacking. And I feel like life is a continuous learning process, and you're always you're just trying to be better than you were yesterday, to be very honest. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's really not when you get into the details of it.
I mean, cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah.
There is a certain truth to a cliche. It's just a cliche because it's been said so often that we think, man, he's saying it again. But these are important things to remind yourself. Every day is a new day to one step better.
Yeah.
And even if you're falling back, you just get up and hit it going again, because otherwise, what's the point? I mean, what I realized was, when you get into college, it's a new start. It's a fresh start. You have certain tools, and say you can call yourself a sculptor, right? And you're sculpting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a certain set of tools and a certain idea of what that piece of stone should look like. Essentially, it's how much more can you add to your tool set, and how much dedication do you want to give to that block of stone to carve out what you want to be. And it's a fresh stone in college, and it's a fresh stone outside college. It's a fresh stone every time you change a job. So you've got to leave some of that baggage behind when you start again, right?
Absolutely.
Because the baggage is holding you back. It's dulling your chisel. It's making a hammer weak. We can reinvent ourselves every day. And you just said that, every day.
Yeah.
So it's not really you need to move places or be outside a situation. You can do it. Mm-hmm. You can do it. One of the greatest men I've ever met, and I met some great women too. That not as like Dr. Macaroni. He's been my mentor in the conservatory. I mean, I got through a lot of that stuff because of him. He started playing music at 25. He didn't know anything. He had a bachelor's in Singaporean gentleman. He had a bachelor's in psychology from a university in Canada. Mm-hmm. And he came back to Singapore and said, I want to do music. And he didn't have the money, of course. So he went on to a TV show, and like a Price is Right kind of TV show back in the day. So he's in his 60s now.
Yeah.
And he won the money to go freely study music for the next 5-7 years. So he went to the Berklee School of Music in Boston, started with a double bass from scratch. 10 years later, he had a PhD in conducting.
Wow.
That is reinvention. And that man just defines for me, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And same man came back to Singapore because he had hurt his back. And I mean, let's not get into the personal details of his life. He couldn't find a job. Mm-hmm. And then the conservatory opened up, and they were looking for someone to teach jazz and world music. And they were looking at his profile. And then there was another opportunity to teach ear training, which is an essential part of musicianship, essential part of music training. And he was a music nerd, like a musicianship nerd. And he got that job, and he's been with them ever since. Right? So life has a weird way of working out. There are struggles, but you can reinvent yourself,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just how bad you want it, and how far you're willing to go, and how much you're willing to suffer.
It's actually quite funny that you mentioned your mentor right now, because my next question was going to be, how was your support system at university?
Right. So I was very, very close with a lot of professors because the community was small,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, I can mention Dr. Onishi, who was a Japanese gentleman who was living in Singapore. He taught me a lot of analysis. Dr. Kawai Shu, who completely expanded my mind when it came to music. There was Dr. Marshman and Dr. Wallace who taught me history, music history. Then Tony, of course. Tony has been a lifesaver. And my own major teacher, the sound side, Dr. Shadong, because they drilled me to the level of I want to murder you. Like there were moments where I said I am going to come to your house because you're driving me that hard. But it was all for a purpose, right?
Hmm.
And every time I fell down, they picked me up. They said, "Shush, it's okay. You picked up a project. It was too ambitious. We knew it, but let's take it to the end."
Yeah.
So on one side of the professors, I had a small group of friends who got it.
Hmm.
Got what wanted to do, and we did some exciting things. There were because NUS was a larger university that helped me find some and South Asians which are important. I'd never want to forget who I am as a person and my roots.
Hmm.
So that was that. And surprisingly, this comes to a surprise to many people. Dr. Kanti Prasad Vajpayee had moved to Singapore, and he was living 5 minutes away from my conservatory. So we used to have tea every other week. And
Really?
yeah, our ex-headmaster, he was there. I'm very, very close to him.
Wow.
And he was great support. And he started treating me like a man and not a boy,
Hmm.
and that made all the difference. So between all of this and having family not so far away, where I could say, okay, if I want to go back home, which I never did very often, I could just take a flight and go back to Calcutta
Yeah.
or wherever family was in 3 hours.
Yeah.
So the combination of that made the support system that I needed.
I think you're probably one of the second or third artists that I've actually interacted with. The first one, obviously, being my brother. I'm not sure if you're aware, but he is a theatre actor in London. And
Mentioned.
to be very honest with you, like everyone thinks that, like the finance world is hard, and like everyone sees these glamorous musicians, like Coldplay, and you see these actors on TV and movies. To be very honest, to get to that stage, I'm starting to understand what you guys have to go through to be a musician and to be an actor. And it's not a cup of tea. I do feel that in many ways, my business degree is just so much easier than what you guys have had to go through.
I won't call it easy, right? The couple of things. One, I do not claim to be an artist. It's something I left behind, and
Hmm.
it's something I'm coming back to.
Hmm.
I'm very much a business wala, as they call it. But I'm restarting to play some music, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm doing it as a passion, not as a career. So I don't want to earn any money from it. And if I ever do, I will give it away. This is a commitment I've made to myself because I love it so much that I don't want it to become the place where my bread comes off, and that's my privilege. But on the other hand, I don't think it's a question of easy and not easy. I just think certain careers have a more defined path, and certain
True.
careers have a path where you have to make yourself.
Hmm.
So the definition of the path makes it a lot easier. So with a business degree, you can go into these because so many more people do it. It's just simple manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
When the job becomes more complex, it becomes a shop job and not a line where things are just flowing. And
Yeah.
that ease of I know what my options are. So many
Hmm.
times artists have to create their own lines of
Hmm.
futures. You have to create a path, and it really depends on who you are, what kind of talent you have, what kind of hard work you put in.
Yeah.
With business, these things are also important. Not everybody becomes a CEO, not everybody becomes a CFO or a COO or
True.
an entrepreneur, Bezos level.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just very well defined. I got to design my own classes, right? Not many business students get to design their own classes because subject matter is ready.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So kind of, what were some things that you would have liked to know before you went to university?
Well, at least in our time, these things have changed. But I'd want to be told that everything is not one exam. It's
Hmm.
not the SAT, not the GMAT. It's at least when you're applying abroad. In the Indian system, of course, 'cause there's the conflict in the Indian's mind. If I nail that exam, I'm in. Second thing is colleges want you.
Hmm.
It's not you want the college. Colleges also want you. So
Yeah.
don't work towards building a CV to get into college. Work towards becoming a interesting human being.
Yeah. Work
Develop a
towards
passion.
becoming a human that the college wants.
Yeah, yeah. And the third thing would be college is not just a name.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not just a name. There are so many other decisions that go into defining who you are and what you want to be. Say, and this I don't mean by a slight, but you might want to live in a big city. You might want to live in a small town. You
Yeah.
might want to be the difference between, and I'll bring up UK, Oxford and Cambridge are very university towns, and there are
Mm-hmm.
students everywhere. Bars are full of students and stuff. London isn't.
Yep.
So understanding these contexts and forgetting the name for once and trying to figure, because the great universities everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? Understanding these contexts and figuring out where do you want to grow and what are your interests outside of that class time, because in university you're spending only a certain amount of time in class,
Yeah.
right? People say if I'm going to Yale or if I'm going to Oxford, a college in Oxford, my life's set. But really, it's what you do outside those walls of your classroom that really define who you become as a person.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the opportunities that you would like outside those walls available, you become dull. Having a squash court around was very, very important. It's not something that's available everywhere.
Yeah.
If I was going to college in America, having a music department was very important,
Mm-hmm.
right? Having certain amounts of social discourse was very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't told these things, right? You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it's what you surround yourself with. Understanding the cost involved is very important.
Yeah.
Because as a 17, 18-year-old, you don't realize how tough life can be when your pocket's empty.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah, and I think that
At
that is a
some
message that I try to portray as much as I can. I mean, I do tell, and it baffles parents, right? Like you should see it someday. If I'm ever doing an event near you, I'll definitely invite you for it. But basically, like I meet a lot of parents and students, and they're always talking about kind of the rank of the universities, and they're talking about the name and this and that and the course, and I'm like, like this is all well and good. I will give you all of this information, but you also have to understand that academics is probably, I mean, it is the primary reason you are going. So I'm going to give it its due diligence and I'm due respect. And that is 50% of the reason why you're going to university, or 50% of the experience. The other 50% comes from such a complex variation of just kind of what life throws at you that you have no choice but to just grow and learn on the spot in real time.
So I'll give you an example. So Peabody, which is at the John Hopkins University
Mm-hmm.
in Baltimore, great music school. Very
Okay.
difficult, to live in. Very difficult city. There's shootings every day. So I had an
Okay.
offer to go and exchange there, and I called it off because I said I will never be able to leave my campus. And
Mm-hmm.
having been in Singapore, which is the safest place you can be, where you can be out at any time and feel completely assured that nothing's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
having been that person, to go to Baltimore,
Yeah.
and again, it's not a fight on the city. There are certain social contexts which we shall not delve into. Is
Mm-hmm.
difficult. So a kid who's gone from Doon to Baltimore will struggle.
Yep.
He'll be
Yep.
surrounded by a certain kind of people. And then it becomes a question of, can this person survive in that environment?
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay not being able to leave your room after 10 o'clock? Because, outside campus is scary. It's a
Yeah.
scary place. Great university. Peabody is the oldest music school in the world. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in America. And one of the greatest music schools around. Great faculty, great education. But do you want to be part of a system
Yeah.
or a culture which is very different from where you are?
Yeah.
Right? So these of course these things are very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Very,
Mm-hmm.
very important. And we don't think about it because again I bring it back to Samaj, Log.
Yeah.
I want to say my child is going to Stanford, is going to Yale, is going to Cambridge, is going to Oxford, is going to LSE. But this is just a name. Yes, there are perks with the name. There is an alumni, there's a bragging right, but that's not necessarily the know all and end all
Yeah.
of life.
Absolutely. So kind of just how did your education, I mean your academic education, I mean no, let's just call it education. You call it for what it is. Education at NUS and kind of what you did after NUS. How did they kind of help you into kind of what you're looking at doing or what you are doing today?
Look, a lot of my life's decisions were made for me in terms of circumstance.
Okay.
And there are certain personal things I would not, it's not like I don't want to, it's just I'm not ready to talk about publicly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I was forced into certain decisions in my life. So financially with NUS, then socially to HEC. I mean, the reason to go for a master's and not an MBA was I wanted to get out then and learn about business because I wanted to, either get a job, which
Yeah.
I did, or come back and do something of my own. But I thought that finance element of the business was important because that's something you need to be
Yeah.
taught. You can't really, you can learn it, but I needed to be taught, and
Mm-hmm.
to each his own. It has taught me that I can adapt to anything I want to do. Right, it has given me the ability. So if you look at the sectors I've worked in the past 5 years of my work experience, I've been a steel trader,
Mm-hmm.
a distributor. I have done construction.
Okay.
I've built steel buildings. I've done light design, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the music and acoustics helped me pivot and learn light design, which I did at the Philips Academy.
Yeah.
We designed the lighting for the city of Puri for the Nabak Labor in 2015, I think. And we executed the
Wow.
entire project. Highway lighting, temple lighting. There were about 30 lakh people who showed up for that event. It was a fantastic experience. Life has been kind that way. I've gone to Maoist areas and built small hospitals or medical centers
Mm-hmm.
where you couldn't leave your room after 4 o'clock. So the adaptability, right? And then I worked in the solar industry. I started a solar company in Singapore. Now I'm doing energy conservation. Just taking the entire 0 to 1,
Yeah.
the vision from 0 to 1 has been able, because I've reinvented myself so many times, right? I
Yeah.
was a certain person in school, then I wasn't that person, then I lost myself for a while, then I learned, then I refound myself, went through some personal crises. It just taught me how to stand up and say, yeah, we can do this.
Yep. Yep.
Is it worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And if it is, we can do it.
The
It is a
squeeze.
squeeze.
Yeah. The squeeze
It
is
is,
real. For sure. Life's not easy.
yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it all kind of boils down to this is my final question. Are you an advocate of international education?
Yes, very much so. Very much
Mm-hmm.
so. But I do like to have a caveat with this. Yes. I'll tell you why not first. Really, just because you didn't go abroad doesn't mean you can't have a good education in this country.
Oh yeah, of
Um,
course.
let's get that out of our discussion altogether. There's some great institutes and great career choices and great things you can do in this country. I used to disdain the education system,
Mm-hmm.
but the more I've seen it, the more I've realized that great things can happen even if you don't go out immediately.
Yep.
But going out of the country just expands your horizons to so many new things, so many new cultures, so many new perspectives, right? And it makes you more tolerant. If nothing else, it makes you more tolerant to there is another way.
Yep.
And till you don't open your horizons and see yourself in a different context, in a different life, and feel that there is change that can be made, you will never realize what you're capable of. So
Mm-hmm.
being in a different context and going through all that struggle and finding yourself is important.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be for a bachelor's degree, it doesn't have to be for a master's degree, it could be an exchange program. It's really what you make of it. But I think it is critical if you have the privilege and the finances to do it.
Yeah,
Many people
absolutely.
don't.
But yeah, so I mean, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
No, man, anytime. And if you want me around, I'm going to be traveling fairly once the COVID
Oh yeah.
situation. It's something I do like talking about with people
Mm-hmm.
because I've had such great experiences. Not something I would like to make a career out of simply because I'm scared of giving the wrong advice. You're
Mm-hmm.
being very, very bold, guiding young minds into a certain channel.
Yeah.
Because there is a question of what if it doesn't work out? And you're very brave. And I'm extremely proud of the path you've chosen that way because it's tough. It's really tough to one, understand people's context and then to show them another way. I'd love to help in any way I can.